Hey guys, so I created the options that you saw based on the idea of multiplication, but I wanted to go more abstract as I felt that the bunny ears concept was something that could be a little risky, especially when that overt idea is very much a central part of Playboy, which I don't think is on brand. Also, I'll skip to the other color scheme because I also didn't like the color scheme being those pastel colors, as I think those are actually the complete opposite of colors that would go with growth. I think the pastels are okay, but more so it should go along the lines of greens, earthy tones, and if it does have those other colors, it should be within that realm of the feeling of ideally multiplication that is tapered by, just colors of calmness and also colors of aspiration, which you'll see here. So just starting from the first one, I wanted to actually create something here that was reminiscent of a cell. I don't know if you can tell that the circle here is actually not completely symmetrical. It's actually more of a cell type shape. If you've ever seen a cell on a microscopic level, and the U actually is bursting out, which again, obviously cells when they duplicate or multiply, obviously it's about one cell kind of interacting with another. So it's in a way kind of abstracted, like the U is coming out from the cell to create new ones, of course. And obviously it's a very rounded, very soft feeling, friendly, I should say, typeface. And overall, I think that aesthetically that really has something to it. I also wanted to still experiment with the concept of, rabbit ears. I don't know if you can tell, it's a lot more uh, abstract, obviously, but it's essentially forming a U, right? And so the way how I saw this one was just where I can actually create just a separation between the two strokes of the U and separating that from the base in order to create just a feeling that is almost like maybe it's behind this element here. I at one point had like eyes and everything, and I just felt like it felt like farmer's market or something. It didn't feel on brand. So the idea here is that the U is more prominent, but still there's that subtle nod to the rabbit. I guess it's like a Easter egg, no pun intended here. All right. And this one, of course, is a little more overt in terms of the multiplication concept. Of course, it's just the small and larger circles, almost like bubbles, forming the letter U. And this one is a little bit more like the cell multiplication process that we saw from the first one. And of course, I try to make the typography here a little more modern but hard edged in certain points, just so that friendlier curve here. But I think that just that kind of touch made it feel a little bit more precise in terms of the overall. This one here, I felt that just the feeling of movement and these different strokes forming still the one side of the U, but on the other hand, having just this balance of solid and split, parts going off into almost like a rainbow or a sunset, or it's a little bit more organic to me, but the colors definitely kind of bring it back to be, something that isn't necessarily supposed to be, like I mentioned, a rainbow or even, excuse me, sorry, or rays of sunlight. I think if anything, it just feels like it's about momentum and movement forward and growth. Ultimately, as you can see, the strokes start from being smaller to get increasing as it forms the U. So I think that that already shows it's about growth. And if anything, you're talking about multiplication, it's definitely about, seeing the increase of, projections, right? So I thought that the U in this way was a lot more distinct and a very strong icon or mark that people could remember. And then this one as well is ultimately still again a subtle nod and cue to the rabbit concept. This time, instead of taking the eyes and making it more animated as I had it, at first, which felt a lot more childlike and playful. In this case, it was that there were like these hinges with the U, and these are abstract eyes, of course, and the ears, but it's obviously not supposed to be taken literally. I think, if anything, they're, just concepts that I tried to see how I could reinvent the bunny ears without having it align with, Playboy. And this was one of my final iterations of that. If we actually took the concept of the bunny ears, this is much more obvious here. And we place them together to form the U. So they're not obviously supposed to be in the exact order that they would be if it was literal. But I think it actually works really well conceptually as bunny ears. It could be even more pushed more that way, but I felt that the distinction of the U, and just that aesthetic value of feeling elegant and still playful, and still to allude to, in this case, the concept of multiplication is much more hidden within the idea that if a person recognizes them as bunny ears, bunnies obviously, they take on that concept of multiplication because of how they reproduce. So I believe that that's why you guys are thinking about that concept. So I think it can still work. This doesn't remind me of that, brand of Playboy, but it still, in order to do that, it can't be literal. It can't. It needs to be a little bit more abstract. So I do think there's a lot of potential for this one. But obviously, it's a very abstract concept. I will listen for your feedback and guidance on this, and I look forward to working on if it needs to be another round of concepts, because I do think that the name is very powerful and it really has, a really great potential to be really iconic. And I want to have, a way to make sure that that is seen in the visuals as well. Thank you guys for your time.